right, welcome to TGM's in-house Bible study. It's Wednesday night, and we are in the house. Oh my God, we are doing small group Bible study tonight. Very excited people who have come here tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Tell people about our channel, YouTube channel, TGM Television. Also, if you're in the Houston area on Sunday mornings, our services at 8 o'clock. TGM Christian Fellowship Church. Definitely check out our website, thegodmovement.com, and you'll find out all information about us. Thank you, my Facebook Live crew for tuning in. We're gonna go right into the lesson. We've already done our greeting. We've already done our general conversation. I like to kind of keep things different by asking questions and seeing where everybody is in their spiritual walk and their growth and everything. So, but tonight we're gonna roll right into the lesson. The lesson is coming from 1 Samuel chapter 7. 1 Samuel chapter 7. I'm going to begin in verse 1, and I'm going to read through verse 11. So it kind of has a backdrop. Israel has been dealing with the Philistines. And the Philistines they defeated the Israelites in preceding chapters. So what you have, the Israelites now, they went to war. They brought the Ark of the Covenant with God, but they lost the battle. So the Philistines took it and kept it with them. And then now the Philistines, they have moved the Ark back, and that's where we're going to come in, 1 Samuel chapter 7. So where the Israelites are right now, they have been defeated in battle. The Ark of the Covenant of God had been taken, but it is now being returned. And now they're dealing with a period of they haven't heard from God. They're in the point of defeat. So this is where we pick up the lesson. 1 Samuel chapter 7. It says, and the men of Kiriath Jearim came and took the ark of the Lord and brought it to the house of Abinadab on the hill and consecrated Eleazar his son to keep the ark of the Lord. From the day that the ark remained at Kiriath Jearim, the time was long, for it was 20 years, and all the house of Israel lamented after the Lord. That means that they cried, they mourned after the Lord. They mourned, they cried for God. Then Samuel said to all the house of Israel, if you return to the Lord with all your heart, if you want to return to the Lord with all your heart, remove the foreign gods and Ashtaroth from among you. I know some translations say Baal. From among you, and direct your hearts to the Lord and serve him alone, and he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines. So the sons of Israel removed the Baals and the Ashtaroth and served the Lord alone. Then Samuel said, gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord for you. So now they're doing a revival, right? A nationwide revival. They gathered to Mizpah, drew water, poured it out before the Lord, fasted on that day, and said there, we have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the sons of Israel at Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that the sons of Israel had gathered to Mizpah, the lords of the Philistines went up against Israel. And when the sons of Israel heard it, they were afraid of the Philistines. So they went to pray to get reconnected to God. And now the Philistines see this as an opportunity to attack. And they got scared. The Israelites, they were afraid of the Philistines because they had previously lost, right? Okay, so then the sons of Israel said to Samuel, do not cease, don't stop crying to the Lord our God for us, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines. Samuel took a lamb and offered it for a whole burnt offering to the Lord. And Samuel cried to the Lord for Israel, and the Lord answered him. Now Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, and the Philistines drew near to battle against Israel. But the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day against the Philistines, and he confused them so that they were routed before Israel. The men of Israel went out of Mizpah and pursued the Philistines and struck them down as far as below Beth Car. All right, so the topic of tonight's lesson is it's time for evaluation. Time to evaluate. And I'm going to start here. I asked the spiritual growth question and the personal development question because I believe that God wants all of us to grow. We all come to God one way. We are not supposed to stay the way that we come. but it is God's will that we all grow. All right. So here's the thing. In growing in God and personal development, the first thing is I believe that God wants, and this is what I really like to about this lesson, is because I like to see God in the scripture. And what I see in here is a basic general understanding of God and how he operates. There have been times, a long time, I'm sure we all can testify to this fact, that we would go about doing things that you expect God to respond to, but he does not respond in the way that you expect. Have you ever been there? And this is what I look at. I look at the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant represented God's presence, right? All right. So they're fighting the Philistines, right? So in their mind, they say, we're going to bring the Ark of the Covenant with us to battle, right? So they bring the Ark of the Covenant, which is the presence of God, and they lose. They lose. The Ark of the Covenant gets taken. And so when I see that, I know a lot of times, there were times in my life that I went through a lot of different phases trying to get God to respond to me in a personal, in a real kind of way. Have you ever experienced that? You're trying to get God to respond, but he doesn't respond in the way that you would have him to respond. So you go into church, and you feel like God is supposed to respond to you going to church in a certain way, and then you don't get that response. You're doing some certain things, and you expecting God to respond to you in a certain way, and he does not respond in a certain way. And I really want to highlight, and I know I highlight this all the time, but the representation is no good without a reality. In other words, it did them no good to have the Ark of the Covenant if they weren't putting in practice the things that they were supposed to be putting in practice. Does that make sense? I say it like this. What good is it to have the facade of a relationship, that your relationship is happy, if y'all always arguing and fussing and can't get along at home? But most of the time, this is what we do to God. When we come to church, we portray the representation that we're really saved, that we're really connected. But the reality of it is we're not doing the things at home. And then when you expect God to move in the way that you need him to move in your life, and he doesn't move, now you, wait a minute, God. It's a process in understanding God and how God operates. I really want us to catch that. The topic is time to evaluate. And understanding God, God has to teach us how to interact with him. It's learning what God responds to and learning what God doesn't respond to. And I think that's very, very, very significant, because you can go to church and be frustrated because you feel like God wants one thing from you, when really that's not really what he wants. Have you ever done that? I know I've done that. I've done that on so many occasions. I went to church and I felt like I'm doing my civil duty as a Christian, but then when I need God to do something for me in my personal life, it never happened. It never came about. And it's because God wanted some other things to happen. And so what God does is he allows their defeat. Yeah. He allows them to get defeated. Why? Because they have to learn and understand that God does not operate like that. In other words, it's saying this. God says, you can go to church and shout all you want to. You can go to church and praise God all you want to. You can go to church and do all this stuff all you want to. But until you understand what God really requires, the things and the blessings and the manifestation of power that you are looking for God to do in your life, you will not see them. I want us to catch that. Sometimes God will allow things to happen to get us to realize that something is wrong. When you get defeated, what happens when you lose? I know what happens when I lose. I start to evaluate and reevaluate, right? I want to impress on us tonight that the defeat brings our attention to an issue in our lives that God is ready to deal with, but we may not be ready to deal with. Did you catch that? Yeah. The defeat is there to bring our attention to an issue that God is ready to deal with, but we are not. I want to ask us all a question. What is an area in your life that you have left unchecked that God may be trying to get your attention about? That's the question. That's the question. What is something in your life that you have left unchecked that maybe God is trying to get your attention about? Israel in defeat. What do you do when you find yourself in a situation that seems to be ongoing? I want to ask y'all a question. Have y'all ever been in a situation that seems to be ongoing, like it's not going to end? 20 years the Ark of the Covenant stayed in somewhere else. So here's the question. What do you do when you experience defeat and you don't see any sign of victory? I'm going to ask you, Lolo. What is a response? And this is a real question. What do you do when it does not seem like victory is on the horizon? What is a response?
To go back and reevaluate, am I doing everything on my part to ensure that I'm successful at whatever I'm supposed to be trying to do or to
Right.
win and succeed, whatever. And if you are, it just may not be your time to succeed. And then at that point, you have to be accepting of what's going to happen.
I like that. I like that. Is that your response? Is that
That's
how you
mine.
respond?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Well, here's the thing. The thing is that Israel's response to it was they cried out to God. 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 And I want to encourage everybody. It's always good to take your problems to God in prayer. I want to stress that. But Israel cried out to God because they had a situation, right? And their crying out to God did not change or fix the situation. Can does that it's like they were praying, they were crying out to God. God, where are you? We can't hear you, we can't see you. God, where are you? We can't hear you, we can't see you. It's like they cried out this. And here's the thing is that they stayed in that predicament for a long time, but it didn't change the predicament. And I want to highlight that talking alone does not fix problems. Talking brings the attention to the problem, it defines the problem, but it doesn't fix the problem, right? And so, in other words, here's what Samuel comes along and Samuel says, if you really want God to be in your midst, it's time to evaluate. And what he says, he calls them to action. Don't just cry out to God about it, but do something about it. How many times do we find ourselves in the, I know I'm not the only one, but I'm going to just testify just to me. Sometimes I cry out to God, I get frustrated and I complain sometimes. Sometimes I complain, sometimes I get frustrated, sometimes I say things, God, where are you? God, where? But at the same time, I'm not thinking in my head, what is it that I need to be doing? Because see, it's one thing if you're in a relationship, right? If you're in a relationship, talking will bring light to whatever the issue is, but ultimately, what's gonna fix the problem is action, right? I to be ready to do something. And here's Samuel. Samuel comes along and he says, well, listen, I hear y'all complaining, y'all been complaining, but what are you ready to do about your situation? And here's the question tonight. The question tonight is in and we still talking about evaluating, but when you find yourself in a situation or in a circumstance, and you find yourself wanting to complain or wanting to criticize or wanting to get frustrated, the question is, are we complaining to God or are we asking God to give us instructions on how to fix or handle the things that it is that we're dealing with? Sometimes we think God is silent, but he may be waiting for you to change some things about your life. God may be saying to you, it's time to evaluate some things about your life, evaluate some things about your character or some of the habits that you're doing. I know it did not ever occur to my mind that God not moving in my life was because something was a part of my life that didn't need to be a part of my life. There was something that I needed to cut out. There are some things about your lifestyle that may have an effect on how active God is in your life. And then I had to learn that God may be using some issues in our life to get me to the point of evaluation. It's like this: without failures, without issues, without things that seem to be opposing or seem to knock us down or to keep us in a certain position, we would never evaluate, right? I went to church. I would go to church every Sunday. I would shout. I would do all the things that I felt like I needed to do. But it's not until I start seeing defeat in my personal life that I start thinking maybe I need to reevaluate. What are some things that I'm doing? What are some things that I may not be doing? Maybe there are some things that God is trying to get my attention to. If you seem to be stuck, maybe it's time to evaluate. If you haven't heard from God, maybe it's time to evaluate. Or if you haven't seen him active in your life, maybe it's time to evaluate. I want us to do this right here. Let us all, we don't have to say it, but let's think in our minds, evaluate something that maybe, or we may be doing or may not be doing, that maybe be hindering or blocking God from being as active as he could be in our life. And I want us to get it. Now we in the growing process. It's growing. What God has to do is he has to grow us. But I want us to put something in your mind that maybe you could be doing different, or maybe you might need to stop doing. And this is what Samuel says: remove the idols. Remove the idols. And what is an idol? An idol is anything that has major priority in your life. What is it, right? What is it that you have made a priority more than doing the work or will of God, or pleasing God, or living in the godly way? What is something that you have made more priority than being more successful in your life, if I can put it that way, or developing yourself personally, or growing spiritually? What is taking priority in life? Maybe it's not taking priority. Maybe it's something that's distracting you. Maybe it's a distraction in your life. Maybe something is, maybe it's not one of those kinds of idols that takes complete priority. Because I know, if we could be honestly, there are some things that I had that I was struggling with, that they weren't a priority. I didn't just waste all my time trying to chase them, but there were things that were distracting to me, right? They may not be a major priority, but they were distraction. Maybe it's not a priority. Maybe it's not a distraction. But maybe it's just something that we have allowed for so long to be a part of our life, that God is now saying, it's time now. If you want to see more, and this is one thing that I live by: if you want to see more, you have to do more or be more. I'm not going to say do more. I'm going to say be more with God. Be more with God, because when you do more, doing more is all exterior, but being more is interior. So here's the thing. My question then tonight is, it may be something that we know is right, but we have allowed to stay a part of our life. But what is something that you can move so that you can become more in sync with God? Is it an attitude? Is it controlling your anger? Is it controlling your mouth? Is it controlling your diet? Sometimes God, you know what? I really want to highlight that. I really want to highlight that, because here's what. Because a lot of people, they say, a lot of people, they say, drinking is defiling the temple, which I can agree with that. Smoking weed, smoking cigarettes is defiling the temple. I can agree with that. But they don't highlight not eating healthy is defiling the temple. Right. Not exercising, not taking care of your body is defiling the temple. Then here's the thing. The things you silly. the things that we allow or do, and it's not just the things that we frown upon, like drinking and smoking, but it's the things that we don't pay attention to, that may be disconnecting or stopping a flow of God that he wants to move through you. It's in the will of God that we take care of our bodies. And so what is something that you can move so that you can become more in sync with God? For me, it was lust. For me, it was lust. For me, it was sex. I had sex. You know what? We have all. I'm sure most of us. I'm not going to say we have all. But many of us, truthfully, have allowed ourselves to be sexual, knowing that God would not have us to be sexual before marriage. Right. But that is one of those things that we allow to linger behind closed doors. And then what if God was to say to you, well, I can't send you a husband until you know how to not be sexual with anybody. What if God was saying, well, I can't give you what it is that you're asking me for, or I can't move through you the way you asking me to move through you, because there's some things in your life that you still hanging on to and playing around with, that you still dealing with, that you still handling and dabbling in. What if God wants to move through? What if he want to send you to the nations, or make you this great preacher or prophet or singer or whatever? But the things that are down in you that you've been lingering and holding on to, what if those are the things that God is saying, hey, it's time for you got to chop and cut. Yeah. What if God said, I'm going to move through you, but there are some things that you have to cut off first. And that's the thing. What is something that you can move? And I want us to think about this in our head. What is something that you can move out of your life so that you can be more in sync with God? I want us to consider that. He says, remove your idols. Remove your idols. Now, look, now we taking a turn. We're taking a turn. The enemy saw their reformation as an opportunity to take advantage of them. Now, look, I want us to catch this. Everybody that's in your life is not in there to see you doing well. I want us to catch that. Everybody that's around you that see you doing that, and this is why I'm very big on personal development and spiritual growth. But guess what? The people around you are not, or may not be. The people around you may not be. And so the enemies looked at this as an opportunity to take advantage of them. But I want us to catch it that when you decide to do more or be more for God, be cautious of those who would seek to take advantage of you and distract you. You see, we talking tonight about taking evaluation and looking inside ourselves and seeing some of those things that we may need to stop, that we may need to fix, that we may need to work on, that we may need to cut off completely so that we can be more in sync with God. But I want us to catch this too, is that the people around some of the people around you may not be as cautious as you are and may not care about your personal development. And that's why it's important for us to stay on track with our growth and not lose focus while you trying to be more for God. You know, it's so easy. It is so easy. That's just like what you said earlier. If I don't make sure that I, focus my energy and my time into growing myself personally, growing myself spiritually, it's easy to get lax about it. It's easy to get lazy about it. And we don't get this, that God really does care about your growth. He really does care about your spiritual growth, about your personal development. God really does care. And so what do they do? Now look, I want us to catch this now, because in order to fix and solve the problems, you have to include yourself in the problem solving process. I want us to catch that. Include yourself in the problem solving process. Now, when dealing with things and issues in us, I want God to move through me. I need God to do things in me, around me. There's something that you can do about it. Now, however, and I like that in the lesson, it deals with them having enemies and their enemies coming up against them. Now, how do they handle that? They go to God. They tell Samuel, cry out to God for us. Y'all, we just read it. Cry out to God for us. Now, and this is where the lesson kind of takes a turn. I want to talk a little bit about prayer and position. A little bit about prayer and position, and how we use prayer. Prayer can be used, prayer is our relationship to God, but prayer can be used as our weapon. Prayer can be used as a weapon. What they did, they prayed, and here we see the power of prayer. Through their prayer, God confused the plan of their enemies and gave them opportunity for victory where they had previously been defeated. And I want us to catch this, because before they had the ark of God, they had the ark of the covenant, but they got defeated, right? This time, they don't have the ark of God, and they got victory. What's the difference? I'm not going to say that.
Well, I mean, not in the sense of it being heavy, but sometimes you can have the very thing blocking you from accomplishing.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Because if they won all this other time, at that time, that wasn't a problem. But for this particular battle, it may have been a problem.
I see what you're saying. Hey, I like that. I like that. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Here's the thing. The Ark of the Covenant, which represented the presence of God, when they had that, they got defeated. Now they don't have it, but God gives them victory. What's the difference? They had his presence without the symbol of his presence. Does that make sense? Yeah. But see, the thing is that what they didn't have before, they had changed behavior. See, before they felt like that God was just going to get them the victory because the ark, the presence, the resemblance of the presence was there. So they negated everything else that they had to do behind the closed doors. But now look at it. Now they brought the things in closed doors. They brought that to the forefront. And even without the ark of the covenant, they get victory. Now, what is it saying? Now, when we talk about evaluation and we talking about learning and understanding God, here's the thing. Some things that we do that we think God really care about, God may not really even care about. And the things that you overlooking and sweeping up under the rug, them may be the things that God really do care about. And so you can think that your blessing is going to come from you doing this, because I play at the church, because I can sing on the choir, because I go to church every Sunday, because I've been paying my tithes faithfully. Maybe those are the very things, just like you said, those things are distracting you. You so focused on the stuff that you do well that you're not focused on the things that you would sweep under the rug. The sex, I got to be sexual. I don't know how to control my anger. I don't know how to control my attitude. I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to show love. You see what I'm saying? These different kinds of things that we sweeping under the rug. Maybe God really cares about those things as opposed to the things that you feel like he really care about. What if God was saying to us tonight, just through this lesson, that maybe it's time to not evaluate what you're doing when you're at church, but what you're doing when you're at home. Maybe it's time for you to evaluate some of the habits, some of the behaviors, some of the things that you allow yourself to be encompassed around and find yourself in. Here's the thing, that when your position is right, your prayers are more powerful. I want us to catch that. When your position, and when I say position, I mean position in the sense of you doing the things that are right. And that's why I say we have to learn and understand what God really requires from us, what God really wants from us. And the thing is it's about position. When your position is right, your prayers are more powerful. And we're going to talk just a little bit about positioning, and then we're going to be done. Positioning. Let's catch this. Positioning. Prayer is designed. Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you feel like your prayers move God? Yes. Yes.
If they're in the right, given in the right way, yes.
Okay. Okay. I like that. And here's a lesson tonight. Here's a lesson tonight. And this is probably gonna trip you out. I want to talk about because what the children of Israel did is they didn't recognize it, but changing and evaluating the things in their personal lives, they removed their idols and all this kind of stuff. That put them in the flow of God. And here's the text that says that be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. We all know the text, right? Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might, correct? All right. The understanding is getting in the flow of God. Now, you believe your prayer moves God. In understanding and learning the character and nature of God, God does not ever move. You cannot move God with your prayers.
Right.
What you can do is move yourself. Now, here's the thing. The thing is that God works as, okay, let me use as an example, the light, okay? God works as a light, right? Now, let's say we the little things around the light, right? Okay. Now, where there is light here, there's a shadow on the other side, right? Now, what you do in your prayers is you move in relation to God. It's like the solar system. The sun would be God and the planets would be us. The sun don't move, but we orbit around the sun. Does that make sense? And this is the thing. The thing is that prayer is designed to get you in the flow of God. Now, this is what they did. They put themselves in the flow of God. The thing is changing your position in relation to his position and not the other way around. See, we feel like, and this is what they felt like, that they could manipulate God by bringing the Ark of the Covenant to where they were. So now, God, I do this, now you gonna work for me. When the truth is that God was saying, no, I need you to get in my flow so we can be working on the same thing. You get what I'm saying? So it's not me trying to bring God into my space. It's understanding that I've got to elevate my thinking and get myself into his space. It's like this. You know, you got two freeways going two different ways, right? You got I-10 East and then I-10 West, right? So most of the time we be on I-10 West trying to get God to come with us, and God is saying, no, you got to exit, make a U-turn, and turn around so you can be on my flow. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But the thing is, it's about positioning, and the positioning came when they understood that there are some things that they were doing that were just not right. So with the lesson tonight, and it's time to evaluate, the high point and the understanding is maybe there are some things in your life that you are doing that God would have you to do different. And we talking about growth. We talking about spiritual growth. We talking about personal development. There are some things in our lives that we might need to go home and evaluate if we want to see the move and the flow of God. Think of an issue in your life that you may have been dealing with or struggling with or battling with, or something that don't seem to be going away. Now, think of this. What if God is saying to you, I got the situation right there so that you can begin to evaluate your walk with me. I have a situation that's not going to move and it's not going to change until you change some things in your personal walk. What if that is the only highlight tonight? So tonight, this lesson is not meant to be deep. This lesson is not meant to be, but it is meant to highlight that there may be some things in our life that we need to change. We may need to cut off. We may need to just look at and evaluate. What do you do when you look in the mirror? You see where the crust is in your eyes. You see where the crust is at on the lips. You see where you need to brush your hair. You see where you need to maybe call me. I got to comb the beard out. You know, I got to keep this brushed or chopped or whatever I'm going to do with it. But that's what you do when you look in the mirror. And that's the lesson tonight. Tonight is I want us to go home and I want us to really consider. I want us to really consider evaluating the things in our lives that may be stopping God from being as active in our life as he could. So with that, that is the gist of the lesson. I'm going to leave the floor open for questions here and discussion. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. You guys be blessed. We'll be right back here next week. Tell your friends about us, TGM Television. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at @the_God Movement. Join us for Sunday morning. TGM Christian Fellowship Church, 333 Old Holman. Look us up on our website to find out more information about that. www.thegodmovement.com. Be blessed.
Woo!
Yay. And you know what? I was going to tell you to do that. Don't forget the website.